The war fleet appeared on my sensors like a disease spreading across healthy tissue. I am Thex Quarian, Chief Monitor for the Neutral Zone Observatory, and in my 30 years of service, I have witnessed 14 conflicts, 9 territorial disputes, and countless posturing displays between rival species. But this was different. This was the Korthian Armada, 60 warships strong, their weapons hot, their intent unmistakable. They were crossing into Valeri space, and when Korthians cross borders, civilizations burn. The treaty was clear. Both species had signed the accords 8 years ago after the last bloodbath. The demilitarized zone was sacred ground, a buffer that kept 2 apex predators from tearing each other apart. But politics had shifted. A Valeri mining colony had allegedly seized a Korthian transport. The Korthians demanded reparations. The Valeri refused. Now, the Armada was moving, and I knew what came next. Orbital bombardment, billions dead. A war that would drag half the sector into the abyss. I transmitted emergency protocols to every authority within range: the Galactic Peacekeeping Directorate, the Mediation Corps, the Diplomatic Emergency Response Teams. All of them responded with the same infuriating message: insufficient time to mobilize, unable to intervene, recommend evacuation of border systems. They were going to let it happen. They were going to watch 2 civilizations collide because bureaucracy moved slower than war. My assistant, Riala, a young plenary with silver skin and 4 arms, stared at the tactical display with mounting horror. "Sir," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the station, "the lead Korthian dreadnought will reach firing range of the Valeri defense platforms in 47 minutes. Once they engage, the treaty is void." "Monitor," I said quietly, my throat tight. "Just call me Monitor." Thex makes it too personal, and I need to stay objective. But objectivity was a luxury I could no longer afford. I pulled up the registry of every vessel in the zone, searching desperately for something, anything that could buy time. Military ships would escalate the situation. Diplomatic shuttles would be ignored. I needed something unexpected, something the Korthians would not immediately vaporize. Then I saw it. A single blip on the edge of the zone. Civilian registry. Human designation. The vessel was listed as a maintenance hauler, currently contracted to repair automated communication relays. The ship name was Rusty Serenity, which seemed almost offensively casual given the circumstances. Humans. Of course, the species that had stumbled into galactic society barely 40 years ago with outdated propulsion systems and an alarming tendency to solve problems with improvisation rather than planning. They were the galaxy's well-meaning amateurs, earnest and reckless in equal measure. I opened a priority channel. "Rusty Serenity. This is Neutral Zone Observatory. Identify your captain." There was a pause, then a male voice responded, thick with an accent I could not place. "This is Captain Marcus Webb." "Let me guess, you need someone to move out of the way because something important is about to happen?" "Not exactly," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I need you to position your vessel directly in the path of an incoming war fleet." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear background noise, the clang of tools, someone laughing. "Sorry, Monitor," Marcus said slowly. "I think our comms are glitching. It sounded like you just asked me to play chicken with a war fleet." "That is precisely what I am asking," I confirmed. "The Korthian Armada is 44 minutes from initiating an attack that will kill billions. You are the only vessel in position to intercept. If you place yourself in their path, you might buy enough time for peacekeepers to arrive." "Monitor," Marcus replied, his tone shifting from confusion to something harder. "I have a crew of 6. We fix satellites and patch hull breaches. We do not do suicide missions." "I understand," I said, feeling the weight of every second slipping away. "But if you do nothing, 2 civilizations go to war. If you do something, even if it only delays them by minutes, lives might be saved. I am not ordering you. I am asking." The channel went silent. I stared at the timer, watching it count down. Riala looked at me with wide, horrified eyes. "Sir," she whispered, "you cannot ask civilians to die." "I am not asking them to die," I said quietly. "I am asking them to choose." Then Marcus' voice returned, and I heard something in it that made my scales prickle, a resignation mixed with defiance. All right, Monitor. Send the coordinates. We will move into position. But if I survive this, you owe me a very expensive drink. The rusty Serenity was not built for speed, but Marcus pushed it hard, the engines flaring bright on my sensors as the small hauler lumbered toward the intercept point. I broadcast a direct warning to the Korthian fleet, informing them that a civilian vessel was in their path and requesting they reduce speed. The response was immediate and cold, a deep, rumbling voice filled with contempt. Neutral Zone Observatory, this is War Leader Kran of the Korthian Armada. Remove the obstruction or we will remove it ourselves. We will not be delayed by cowards hiding behind neutrals. The vessel is unarmed and poses no threat, I insisted, my voice rising despite my efforts to remain calm. Under galactic maritime law, you are required to avoid collision with civilian traffic. Kran laughed to sound like grinding stone. We are beyond your laws, Monitor. We are beyond patience. The Velari have 40 minutes to surrender the criminals who seized our transport. If they refuse, we will take what is owed in fire. The channel cut off. I watched helplessly as the distance closed. The rusty Serenity was now a tiny speck, positioned directly in the path of 60 warships, each one capable of cracking planets. It was absurd. It was hopeless. It was the most courageous act of stupidity I had ever witnessed. Marcus, I transmitted on the private channel. They will not stop. You need to move. Yeah, I figured, Marcus replied, his voice surprisingly steady. But here's the thing, Monitor. I've been thinking about what you said. About buying time. About choices. My crew and I, we talked it over. We voted. It was unanimous. What was unanimous? I asked, dreading the answer. We are not moving, Marcus said simply. If they want to cross this line, they will have to go through us. And if they do, the whole galaxy will see it. They will see a war fleet murder unarmed repair workers who were just trying to fix satellites. That's a hell of a way to start a war. My primary heart clenched. Marcus, you will die. Probably, he admitted. But Monitor, I have spent 15 years fixing broken things in space, communication relays, navigation beacons, life support systems, boring work, honest work. Never thought it mattered much. But right now, in this moment, I get to be the thing that needs fixing. I get to be the obstacle that makes them think twice. That is not nothing. I could not speak. Riala was crying openly, her tears drifting in the low gravity of the observation deck. The Korthian Armada did not slow. I watched the dreadnought close to within weapons range of the rusty Serenity. The hauler was so small it barely registered next to the massive warship, a minnow facing a shark. I expected the dreadnought to simply vaporize it, to sweep the irritation aside without breaking formation. Instead, the entire fleet stopped. I blinked, certain my sensors were malfunctioning. But no, the Armada had halted, holding position just 500 meters from the hauler. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, Kran's voice returned on the open channel, and for the first time, there was something other than contempt in it. Uncertainty. Human vessel, identify yourself and your purpose. Marcus responded immediately, his voice calm and clear. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Rusty Serenity. We are a maintenance crew. We repair satellites. Our purpose is to not let you start a war. You are unarmed, Kran stated, as if trying to make sense of an equation that refused to balance. You have no shields, no weapons, no leverage. Why are you here? Because someone had to be, Marcus said simply. Because if nobody stands in your way, you will kill billions of people over a political dispute that could be solved with conversation. Because I have 6 people on this ship who believe that doing the right thing matters more than doing the easy thing. There was a long silence. I could see the tactical readouts flickering as the Korthian ships adjusted their formations, confused by the presence of this inexplicable obstacle. Finally, Kran spoke again, and his voice carried a note of incredulity. You would die to delay us? I would die to remind you what you are about to do, Marcus corrected. War leader, I do not know your culture. I do not know your history. But I know that once you cross this line, once you fire the first shot, you cannot take it back. Billions will die, cities will burn, generations will grow up hating each other, and all of it will start because you chose to go through me instead of around me. Another silence. Then, shockingly, a second voice joined the channel. It was smooth, measured, and unmistakably Velari. "This is Counselor Tresh of the Velari High Command. We are monitoring this channel. Human Captain, your courage is noted. War Leader Kran, we propose an immediate ceasefire and emergency mediation. The transport incident will be investigated by neutral arbiters. We will honor the result." I held my breath. Everything now depended on Kran. The war leader could still choose violence. He could sweep the rusty serenity aside and claim the human had been a spy or a saboteur. But instead, after what felt like an eternity, Kran spoke again. "Counselor Tresh, we will hold position and await the arbiters. But know this, we hold position not because we fear you, but because this human has reminded us of something we had forgotten. Honor is not found in easy victories. Human Captain, you are either the bravest fool in the galaxy or the wisest. I have not yet decided which." The channel closed. The Armada remained motionless. I slumped in my chair, my limbs trembling with relief so intense it felt like illness. Riala was laughing and crying at the same time, her 4 arms clutching the console for support. "Marcus," I transmitted, barely able to form words, "you stopped them. You stopped a war fleet with a maintenance drone." "Monitor," Marcus replied, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "I'm going to need that drink now." Several, actually. The aftermath moved with astonishing speed. Within an hour, peacekeeping vessels arrived. Within 3 hours, neutral arbiters from the Galactic Justice Council were en route. Within a day, both the Korthians and the Velari had agreed to binding mediation. The transport incident was investigated and resolved. It turned out to be a bureaucratic error, a miscommunication involving cargo manifests and outdated permits. Not a conspiracy. Not an act of war. Just paperwork. The war that would have killed billions evaporated because Marcus Webb refused to move. The media descended like scavengers on fresh prey. Every news outlet in the sector wanted to interview the human who had stopped the Korthian Armada. Marcus, predictably, hated every second of it. I watched the press conference from my station, marveling at how uncomfortable he looked in formal attire. He fidgeted constantly, his eyes darting toward the exits as if calculating escape routes. "Captain Webb," a reporter asked, her voice sharp with professional curiosity, "were you not terrified? You were facing annihilation." "Terrified?" Marcus repeated, considering the word. "Yeah, I was terrified. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the controls. But fear is not the opposite of courage. Fear is just the price you pay for doing something that matters." Another reporter, this one a towering Korthian with ceremonial armor. "Captain, War Leader Kran has publicly stated that you reminded him of honor. What do you say to those who claim humans are too emotional, too irrational to be trusted in crisis situations?" Marcus looked directly at the Korthian, his expression serious. "I say that calling compassion irrational is the real irrationality. Caring about strangers, risking your life for people you will never meet, choosing peace over violence even when violence is easier, that is not weakness, that is civilization. And if that makes us emotional, then I am proud to be emotional." The room erupted in questions, but Marcus raised his hand for silence. "Look," he said, his voice cutting through the noise, "I am not a hero. I am a maintenance worker who got lucky. But I want to say something to everyone watching. You do not need a warship to change the galaxy. You do not need titles or power or wealth. You just need to care enough to stand in the way when something wrong is about to happen. Every single one of you has that power. Use it." The clip went viral across every civilized system. Suddenly, humans were not just the newcomers anymore. They were the species that had stared down a war fleet with nothing but conviction. Applications to human cultural exchange programs increased by 600%. 3 major species revised their diplomatic protocols to include mandatory conflict de-escalation training based on Marcus' approach. But the moment that struck me most deeply came 2 weeks later. I received a transmission from War Leader Kran himself, requesting a private channel. I accepted, curious and cautious. "Monitor Thex," Kran began, his voice formal. "I wish to speak with you regarding the human captain." "Of course," I replied carefully. What do you wish to know? Cran was silent for a moment, then continued. My species values strength above all else. For 600 generations we have been taught that power is the only truth, that dominance is the natural order. But when I faced that small vessel, when I heard Marcus Webb speak, I felt something I had not felt in decades. Shame. He did not threaten me. He did not challenge my strength. He simply reminded me of the cost of using it. Monitor, I have commanded fleets for 20 years. I have won 30 battles, but I have never been as strong as that human was in his weakness. I did not know what to say. Cran continued before I could respond. I am implementing new protocols for the Armada. Before any military action, we will now ask ourselves the Marcus Webb question. Is this necessary, or is this easy? Is this honor, or is this pride? The human has changed us, Monitor. He has changed me. The channel closed, leaving me staring at the empty screen. Riala approached quietly. Sir, she said softly, do you think it will last? The peace? I do not know, I admitted. But I know that Marcus Webb proved something important. He proved that one person can matter, that courage does not require weapons, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to move. 6 months later, I attended the inauguration of the Webb Doctrine, a new framework for conflict resolution adopted by the Galactic Peacekeeping Directorate. The core principle was simple. Before escalation, insert an obstacle. A neutral party, a civilian voice, a reminder of the human cost. Force the aggressors to confront what they are about to do, not in theory, but in immediate personal terms. Marcus was invited to speak at the ceremony. He looked just as uncomfortable as he had at every public event, but when he took the podium, his words carried weight. I did not set out to create a doctrine, he said, gripping the podium with both hands. I just did not want people to die. But if my stubborn refusal to move can become a tool for peace, then I am honored. Just remember that this only works if people care. If we become cynical, if we decide that one person cannot make a difference, then we lose. So stay stubborn, stay unreasonable, and never ever move when someone tries to roll over you to commit an atrocity. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus simply nodded, stepped away from the podium, and walked off the stage. Later, I found him in the observatory lounge, staring out at the stars with a drink in his hand. You owe me this, he said without looking at me, raising the glass. I owe you far more than that, I replied, settling into the chair beside him. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the distant lights of passing ships. Finally, Marcus spoke again. Monitor, can I ask you something? Anything. When you called me that day, when you asked me to put my ship in the path of the Armada, did you think it would actually work? I considered lying, then decided he deserved the truth. No, I admitted. I thought you would die, and the war would happen anyway. But I was desperate, and you were all I had. Marcus nodded slowly, taking a sip of his drink. Then he smiled, a small, tired smile. You know what the funny thing is? I did not think it would work either. I thought we were just making a gesture, a futile, pointless gesture that nobody would remember. But we made it anyway, because what else do you do when the universe asks you to choose? You choose to care, I said quietly. Yeah, Marcus agreed. You choose to care. Years have passed since that day. The rusty Serenity still operates in the neutral zone, still repairs satellites and patches communication relays. Marcus still captains it, refusing offers of promotions and command positions in larger fleets. He says he likes the quiet work, the honest work. But his crew has grown. Young people from a dozen species now vie for positions on maintenance haulers, inspired by the idea that humble work can change the galaxy. The Velari and Korthians have maintained their peace, their cooperation deepening into genuine partnership. Trade routes flourish where war fleets once gathered. I still monitor the neutral zone, still watch for threats and tensions. But now, when I see conflicts brewing, I think of Marcus Webb. I think of a human in an unarmed hauler, refusing to move, reminding warriors of their humanity. And I remember that sometimes the most powerful weapon in the galaxy is not a laser or a missile. It is a conscience. It is a choice. It is the simple, stubborn insistence that some things matter more than survival. Marcus taught the galaxy that lesson with nothing but a maintenance drone and an unwillingness to look away. And in a universe of vast fleets and ancient powers that made him more dangerous than any weapon ever forged. Because you cannot fight someone who refuses to let you forget what you are about to do. You cannot silence a voice that speaks for billions. You cannot move an obstacle that is powered by principle rather than fear. The galaxy learned that the hard way, and it became better for the lesson. If you enjoyed this story, explore more tales of humanity's unexpected courage at Sleep Sci-Fi Stories, where ordinary people do extraordinary things among the stars.